Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Cover to Cover. You're here with Mo,
Andrea,
and Morgan.
And today we want to discuss different formats of literature and whether or not we enjoy them. But first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about book etiquette. How do you guys feel about book etiquette? Do you dog-ear your pages, highlight everything, write yourself notes in the margin, or what's your method of reading? What do you guys do? Tell me, please.
depends on if it's my book or someone else's. I would never dog ear anyone else's book. Like, that's just pure evil. But if it's my own, I will definitely dog ear because then, like, I see this puffy book afterward and it's like battle scars. Like, I read that. Like, I tore through that bad boy.
No.
Morgan's like,
No. I mean, how can you stand it with all the creases in there? You're ruining it. Why are you ruining your books?
Like, it just becomes mine, you know? It's not just this book that's, like, so clean and perfect on the shelf. Like, no.
I have to say I'm on Team Morgan with this one. Like, it like causes me like physical pain to bend the edge of a book. Like, if I can't find a bookmark, I will just go out of my way to memorize the page number instead of and I get it. Like, I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong.
But it is.
But it is.
Okay, well, I know if I ever borrow books from you guys, I will never dog ear. And just rest easy at night knowing I will never touch your books like that. So
I find receipts and pieces of paper, so it's always a surprise of what I find.
Yeah, no, true.
Oh, I bought this then. Or
do you ever find dollar bills in there?
I have.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a special
Yeah.
surprise. And I know, Morgan, that you went to a lot of school, so how do you feel about, like, highlighting text, or is that, like, specifically, like, for educational purposes?
Academic papers, yes, for sure. Have to highlight text. Self-help books, yes.
Yeah.
But novels, no.
Don't need to remember that stuff?
I like to take a big Sharpie and just tear through this. I'm kidding.
She likes to black out, which
Yeah.
she doesn't like. Well, what do you guys feel about borrowing books? Do you loan friends books? How long do you wait to ask for it back? And, like, when you borrow a book, how does that make you feel? Like, I get really nervous because I know that they know that I still have the book and I haven't read it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a people pleaser, so I lend books, but always, like, cringe a little bit inside. I'm like, here you go.
Yeah. Well, because you want to be nice, but also you want your book back.
Right,
So,
yeah.
like,
I remember all the names of people who have borrowed my books and not given them back. Just saying.
you have, like, a ledger,
Yes.
and, like, people are dead to you. They didn't give them
Yeah.
back.
So you're going to charge them fees, and now you're going to start charging it interest. You can make a lot of money that way.
Speaking of late fees, there's a really amazing story in the news right now. In West Hartford, Connecticut, there was a book that was recently returned with a sorry note on it because it was 52 years overdue.
my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
The book was W.O. Mitchell's Who Has Seen the Wind, and the sticky note read, "Sorry it's taken so long." And it was returned anonymously.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
That's hilarious.
I wonder if that's something my husband would do.
Yeah, just keep it for 52 years. and bring
We
it back.
rack up the late fees.
Oh,
And
man.
it drives me batty.
Can you imagine if they were to charge late fees on that book? Like, how expensive that would be? That's crazy.
That is
They're
crazy.
pouring back into the libraries.
That's true. Yes. We are keeping the library operating. They can buy new books. They can pay their staff. They can keep the light bills on because we never return our books. And
You're
they're
doing
always
your
like,
service. You are.
He always comes home with a big bag of books, like a big grocery bag full of books. And then I was like, why? Because half of them are going to be late, and we're going to have the library $20.
Oh, my Lanta. Well, let us know, what is y'all's book etiquette? Or what book peeves do you have? In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about art in books. Author Marissa Moss, best known for her Amelia's Notebooks series, is latest in the news for her last memoir, Last Things, which was published last month. This is a graphic-style novel used to tell the story of her grieving process throughout her husband's illness and death. She decided to illustrate her memoir to make the narrative more accessible to others, and she says, American culture isolates from death from everyday life, cordoning off the messy experiences of illness and grief. So what do you guys think? Do pictures help you understand things differently, and what do you think about graphic novels?
I think art is such a powerful way to get across a story or a feeling or emotion. And like we were saying on our last show, literature can be a little bit subjective. So if an author can give you a little more of like, no, this is what I mean by that, personally, I'm into it.
I will confess, I have never picked up a graphic novel. Never. I mean, I've read books that have pictures, and I love graphs. I'm a numbers person, so put your graphs in there or pop out important points, but graphics, I have never touched them. I wouldn't think to. I don't know. It's just, maybe that's just me. But I love art, but
graphic novels are one of those things that if you weren't introduced to them kind of at an early age, maybe you don't understand that they do have value.
that's probably me.
Yeah,
I didn't read them as a kid
and that's
either.
fine, yeah. But people like Neil Gaiman, he's written The Sandman, which is one of the world's most popular graphic novels, and it is literally just an epic work of literature that just happens to be accompanied by images, and it's known as the comic strip for intellectuals. So I think that's a great place to start if you haven't ever read a graphic novel or are kind of weary about that sort of thing.
But sometimes I struggle if I feel like the picture doesn't match the text. There was a book I was reading recently, and the clothing of the person in the picture, I mean, it was sketches, but I was like, that doesn't match the time frame. It's kind of like how Dirty Dancing is supposed to be based off the 60s, but they really look like they're in the 80s because that's when it was filmed.
Right.
And that just bothers me.
Interesting. Well, did you guys know that they have made a graphic novel out of the Bible? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, you were just telling me that, and I don't know how I feel. I mean, I feel fine about it, actually. I think that it's probably a good way to get children more interested.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I think it's interesting. I saw someone's little sister had it, and so it was really cool to see. But I wonder how they skirt some of these more interesting stories in the Bible.
So I actually know people who have published. It's a Bible this thick, and it's called the Archaeological Bible, and it's full of real pictures. It's not drawings. It's from actual places. And being someone who has lived in Jerusalem for a time and has traveled to Egypt and Jordan, I love it because it makes it come alive for me. If it was drawings, I don't know, because there's so much to interpretation. But to see things that are there, to see the places that are there, I really do enjoy that. And there's a little commentary to explain it too.
I always come back to like really popular children's novels that are illustrated. For example, Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. Everybody loves Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah.
And it has this really striking imagery that just sticks with you. Like, there's nothing else like it. You'll remember it forever. And it sets the tone for that novel. But maybe if it was a novel you had already read before and then imagery was later introduced, you might already have a picture in your head that doesn't match up.
Yeah.
And they are actually getting ready to do an illustrated copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. And I think that's maybe an instance where it could be, for first-time readers, a good thing, but for repeat readers, not so much.
Not so much, yeah.
Yeah, I like how you said that it sticks with you, because I loved reading great illustrated classics when I was younger. So I read like Charles Dickens and Jane Austen and all that, and they had a picture by the text on each of the pages. And that stuck with me. I loved classics after that, and I grew up loving that. So that's interesting.
Speaking of that, Joe let us borrow a couple of his graphic illustrated classics. He brought in the Odyssey and the Iliad. And so this is a really cool way to get also younger readers to be interested in the classics. Perhaps they wouldn't pick up a copy of the Odyssey, but it's such a great story to read that maybe this is the way to get them to do that, right?
Maybe I should have gotten this in elementary school.
Yeah,
This
so
might have-
maybe that's the answer. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we all know that art can be powerful in books, but what do you guys feel about other formats of storytelling, right? So we have essays and poetry and short stories, narrative poems. I mean, do you guys read that kind of stuff, or are you strictly fiction, nonfiction, that's the kind of stuff you read?
I love fiction, and I will always go to fiction. But if I am feeling sad, I go to poetry. So I have the Oxford Book of Poetry with just a ton of poems, and that's kind of my go-to, just to kind of, it's just, I love how these poets have released their sadness and their grief, and so I can kind of feel with them, and I love that.
I mean, I'll read anything. I'm not really a literature snob, but I do tend to go to nonfiction more often than not.
Yeah.
If someone recommends a short story, yeah, I'll read it. But
Well,
it's not something I gravitate to when I'm in the bookstore or the library.
As nonfiction goes, do you read like essays, or do you like it to be like, this is one thing, it's a whole piece, or will you read shorter pieces of things that are like maybe a compilation?
I'll read shorter pieces, yeah, for sure.
I'm a big fan of that, and somebody who does that really well is David Sedaris, and he often writes essays or just lots of short stories, which make for really good travel companions. And I actually just got Andrea a David Sedaris book for her birthday.
Oh,
So she's going to get a chance to
No.
read Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim, which is a great, really popular David Sedaris book that's just a series of essays.
Best birthday gift ever.
Yeah, those are great gifts. Another person who does it really well is one of my favorite authors, Barbara Kingsolver. And this is a really great collection of essays that she has called High Tide in Tucson. So that's just a little recommendation for you guys.
Ooh, earlier this week I had Hemingway short essays sitting up here.
Oh,
I already
nice.
took it home because I wanted to read it. So
Yeah.
that's another one.
Yeah, so there's lots of stuff like that. Okay, but I have one more question to pose for you guys. Do you think that song lyrics can be considered literature? Now, there's a story in the news right now about Bob Dylan. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature last October for having created new poetic expressions within the American song tradition. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, it's really up for debate, and Bob Dylan himself has said he's not quite sure where he stands on it.
I think so. I mean, I think of like rock operas like Queen, Led Zeppelin, The Who, and I think those are great examples of literature. And then, I mean, all art kind of blurs after a while. I mean, we have plays that are considered literature, right? And plays get turned into musicals, and so why not?
Morgan, you look like you have feelings.
This is a tough one for me because you know that my husband is a musician and he is a writer, and I know the process he goes through to write some of his songs. He will do a lot of research. He tries to get into a character, but that's just his style. I call it Kentucky folklore. It's kind of bluegrassy. He's a storyteller, loves to tell stories about history, about wars. So it's literature. He's just singing his story.
Yeah, and I love stuff like that. And Bob Dylan, of course, is the king of that, telling a story within a song. And I think that's why he was awarded the prize, because he was one of the first people to do it. And it's amazing and it's beautiful. And there are lots of other great artists that are doing that. And a lot of spoken word is being turned into music, right? So there's a popular band right now that just won NPR's Tiny Desk Contest. Their name is Tank and the Bangas, and they are a spoken word band, and it's incredible. And I have to say, I consider that a form of literature, so I'm on board.
Well, let us know what you think. And are there any albums or any songs that really touch you and that you see as literature too? So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to discuss and talk about why authors use pen names and some young authors that are publishing books. So we'll see you in a second.
We love the idea that anyone can become a writer and really enjoy how powerful writing can be. There are a few stories in the news right now about young people publishing books, and we think that's so great. One girl that I heard of, her name was Alicia Havener. She wrote a book called Journey to Dandon Forest, and she is only 10 years old.
No way.
Crazy.
Isn't that incredible? And she did the sweetest dedication in her book. She said, "To Mom and Dad, who helped me accomplish all of my goals." That's so sweet.
That is so sweet.
And I know you're a really big fan of children who write novels.
Yeah, there was a young boy her age, and he wrote 150 business tips. So his father said that he could get a hoverboard if he wrote 150 business tips. Yeah, I know, a kid. And he did a great job, and it became a published book.
What does this kid know about business?
Oh, if you saw, I mean, I am looking forward to reading it and grabbing a copy myself, but it was, I mean, they were really great tips.
Okay, I'm going to have to pick that one.
Yeah, you will. You'll have to check it out.
And I love when I see different communities doing writing programs for children. I read about in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, there's a teen poetry slam community just for them to come together and kind of learn about that and express their emotions through writing, which I think is really important.
Maybe that's something some of our viewers can do and tell us about.
Yeah.
It's a great summer activity. Get your kids writing.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll love to help them publish their books. That would be so much fun.
It would be. It'd be so
We'll have them
fulfilling.
on the show. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I actually had an anecdote to tell you guys that I didn't tell you about before. When I was 6 years old, we went on a family road trip, and I wrote my first book.
No way.
Yeah, and
Where is that? Did you publish?
Here's the thing, it is lost. It's just like if we don't have the digital age and I wrote it by hand, if I had only had a laptop. And my dad was so proud, and he still brings up how sad he is that we lost it. And so now he pesters me about, like, when are you writing your second book? When is it going to get published? So.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was a haiku published when I was in kindergarten in the local paper. And the only thing I remember about it, my parents still have it. They cut it up and it's in a memory book. But I said something like, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Aww.
That's the only part I remember of it.
That's so cute.
I wrote a book in like 6th grade about Hurricane Charlie. I was living in Florida at the time, and so I like drew all these little pictures and wrote my story about what it was like in a kid's eyes. And I don't know what happened to that too. I did not have a laptop at the time, so
Digital age.
Digital age.
That's what we need.
Well, if y'all were to write a book, would you write it under your name or another name?
Yeah.
Good question.
I would write it under my name, because if I'm spending my time doing all of that, they better know it was me.
Yeah, but so this is my question for everyone. Let me know what you think. Why do people invest so much time and energy in pouring themselves out into a book and then publish it under a different name? I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think of different time periods.
Okay.
So sometimes, I mean, obviously women were not getting the respect, and maybe people wouldn't have picked up the book if it was under a women's name. So like the Bronte sisters, they wrote under men's names at one point. And then also A.M. Bernard wrote sensational Gothic thrillers with subject matter deemed unladylike in her time period for a female writer. So she wrote under a male's name as well.
Okay, so I get that, but what about people now? Didn't J.K. Rowling do that too?
Yeah, J.K. Rowling writes a mystery series under the pen name Robert Galbraith. And I read that her specific reason that she did it is because she wanted to separate herself from her Harry Potter fame, which I kind of get. She wanted her new series to stand on its own. But I read that other reasons that people would do it. One reason is, what if their first book was a flop, right? Like, what if it failed? You don't want to be associated with this, like, bad project that didn't do well. Or what if you wanted to cross genres? You know, Agatha Christie did that. She was really famous for writing mystery novels. But then when she wanted to write a romance novel, she was like, if I do this, people might feel bad about it. So she just chose a totally different name to cross genres.
Didn't Stephen King do the same thing?
He did. Yeah.
I wonder if I could have done that when I was in school. I really don't like this paper, so I'm going to turn it under someone else's name. Or try to write my name.
Yeah, write your name in someone's paper
Someone
who
else's
did well.
paper. This girl always gets straight A's. All right, Kate, I am becoming you today.
Yeah.
And taking your paper.
Yeah, and another facet of that goes along with what you were saying is that sometimes women authors will use initials instead of their first name, also so people will assume that they're men, because there's been a lot of sexism over the years, especially for women writers. And that's why J.K. Rowling did it. Her publishers told her that they didn't think that people would buy a book with a male protagonist that was written by a woman. So she used her initials.
That
like S.E.
is
Hinton
crazy.
too?
S.E. Hinton and many other people.
When I pick up a book, I typically, unless I'm going after a certain author, but when I'm looking at the back of a book, their race, their gender, their age, I don't think about it. I think about, is this a good book or not?
Yeah, but also to be fair, you're a woman.
I guess.
Maybe other people feel differently. I don't know.
But we've had this conversation in past shows about, can someone of a certain race, of a certain culture, write about others? So I guess that makes sense, because some people say, no, you don't understand what it means to be this, so how can you write about this? And I don't know. I just think that's silly.
Well, let us know in the comments what you think about pen names. Either way, there's a great list of authors to check out. And my book list is getting so long, guys. I don't know about you guys, hopefully for y'all too. But recently I did an interview with author Lorraine Croston, the author of The Devil's Food Cake Made Me Do It. Let's check it out. I'm here with Lorraine Croston, author of The Devil's Food Cake Made Me Do It. Lorraine, tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, the book is essentially 9 different stories that describe the reasons that people will eat beyond the point of hunger. It's those little voices in your head, and it's, things like, when you sit down to watch TV and you naturally reach for the bag of chips. Or if you're distracted and you just keep eating and eating and eating, no matter how much or how big the plateful is, you just keep eating and you don't realize you stopped being hungry like 10 minutes ago.
Guilty.
It's all these little stories. And part of that was because I was finding that for myself and for a lot of people that I spoke to, they were kind of sabotaging themselves from this just inner talk. So figured, why not give them a hand and come up with the explanation, which are these great little stories, and really, really easy techniques, and that you could try one once it's incorporated as part of your habit, and it's mostly to recognize what's going on.
Okay, awesome. And tell me a little bit about your nutrition background.
Well, I am I call myself a wellness strategist because I concentrate on what you put in your head and what you put in your mouth. So part of that is that I am a nutritional therapist. I'm also a certified coach practitioner. I am a speaker, an author, a trainer. I had my own web TV program that I called Let's Face It. So I've been talking to an awful lot of people, and that's why I figured, you know what, this is a good time to write the book and help them out. And in a fun and easy way, like they're entertaining stories.
Yeah, the book title is hilarious. I love The Devil's Food Cake Made Me Do It. So is this kind of a comedic journey for a reader?
It is. It's a fun read. And what I did was that I gave each of the instances a persona, and I call them my little food demons. So, I'll start off with a story that it's the food demon that is enticing in whichever way. And my personal favorite that I wrote was called the taste demon. So if you imagine your version of Sex on a Stick, that's your taste demon. That is the one that is going to just anything that it puts in front of you, you're going to just love it and eat it to the point where you're bursting, but oh my God, it's just so good. So I start with the story, and then I ask questions. Is this yours? So that you can recognize which one it is. And some of them you'll say, no, it's not mine. And come up with, I encountered all of these, every 9 of them. And then I finish, I give you the techniques, and I finish the story. So that my person who is afflicted by whichever food demon, it tells how they got it over it and how they tamed those demons. So one way or the other, it's just a fun read.
Awesome. So tell me about your perfect reader. Who's your ideal candidate for a reader for this book?
Well, typically it'll be women. When I was writing this book, and part of it is that I would say, I specialize in emotional eating. And I have 3 sisters, 3 older sisters, and they all said, I'm not an emotional eater. I'm not an emotional eater. And so I had them read, because of course you get the acid test. You get your sisters to read your book, you know whether or not it's good. They all loved it. And each and every one, with the most guilty look on their face, said, found my demon, found my demon, found my demon. And none of them would tell me what it was.
Oh, no. Yeah, that would be me, too.
So I know that it's effective because they don't have a weight problem, and they eat quite healthy, but they found their own little food demon. And those are the things that you need to address sometimes.
Well, awesome. Lorraine, tell me the message that you would want to give to readers.
The message that's really important out of my book is just recognize it, because recognizing it is the first step. Understanding where it came from, because it could be from childhood, it could be from the people around you, because one of them I term as the social demon. It's what are the people around you doing that you're doing the same thing that doesn't necessarily serve you. So it's, once you recognize it, then you can beat it. You can tame those.
Awesome.
So that's my message. It is possible to tame your food demons.
Okay, yeah, I will definitely need to grab a copy of this book. Thank you so much for joining me, Lorraine.
I had a great time. Thanks for coming for the interview.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I'm really excited to see what my food demon was, and I hope you guys are too. Check out The Devil's Food Cake Made Me Do It, and be sure to grab a copy.
Thanks, y'all. We love books, like a lot. I know I use books for decorating, and everywhere in my house I have bookshelves in every room, and I will probably name my future kids after my favorite literary darlings. But what are other ways that we integrate literature into our lives? Like, what ways do you guys do that?
I'm a huge theater person, so I love plays based off of books. I've done The Great Gatsby and Love's Labor's Lost and Pride and Prejudice. So that's a huge thing for me. If I see a play going on that is based off of a book, like I will always jump in. So
I love decorating. I am somewhat of an artist, so I love making things. So some things I have done is I tore out pages of an old hymnal and then some lyrics and some books, and I Mod Podged it on some pots and planted some plants in it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know for me, a thing that I always do is I'm a big party planner. I like to plan events, and anything that can be literary themed is my number one go-to, right? So throwing like a Roaring Twenties Gatsby party,
that's so fun.
or like a Midsummer Night's Dream garden party, or like a Harry Potter baby shower, or like an Alice in Wonderland anything. I love that kind of stuff.
So what party are you throwing us this weekend?
Right, I know. I have to get on it now. I have to do it since I'm talking about it.
Have y'all visited any places that are related to authors or books?
Yeah, I stayed in this one hotel that like a Sherlock Holmes book was based off of that I thought was really cool. They had like a little dedication to him.
Oh, that's
so I loved
so
that.
cool.
Yeah, that was really fun.
And actually in the news right now, there's a really, really cool Sherlock Holmes exhibit that is currently going on, and it's traveling around the world. So you should check it out and see if you can find if it's going to be in your city. It's extremely interactive. There's a really cool room where they have actually recreated 221B Baker Street. So you can actually sit in like a recreated room that like Sherlock Holmes would have worked in. And you can like solve a murder while you're there.
Oh, wow.
It's like really cool. It's in Australia right now, so it's not in the States, but I think it's making the rounds.
There is now a new Dr. Seuss museum too
really?
in Springfield, Massachusetts, in his hometown, which I think is really cool. Also, Google Maps has created this like 360 Google Maps thing for museums all over the world that you can check out. I mean, the list is endless, and I'm so hoping they put Dr. Seuss's museum on there, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's a good point, is that people tend to like make their vacations around their literary loves, because you can literally just Google like take a road trip and visit like author homes, or like, you know, coffee shops that Ernest Hemingway visited, or like places where F. Scott Fitzgerald would write, stuff like that.
Like I've been to Angels Camp in California, related to Mark Twain, and everywhere in that town they're talking about that story of the jumping frog and things about him, and so
That's great.
and it's a really tiny town.
Did you know Mark Twain? That's a pseudonym. Also, when we were speaking of pseudonyms, let me pull this up for you.
I forgot.
Mark
that's right.
Twain is Samuel Langhorne Clemens.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wonder why you picked that name of all names.
I don't know. Maybe because it sounded really Southern, sort of,
I
and
think
he like
so.
writes about the Mississippi and
Yes,
that kind of
I
stuff.
think that is true.
I'm
now
going
that
to
you're
become
saying
a
that.
Twain. So there's Mark Twain, Shania Twain, and I'm the next
Andrea
Twain.
Twain.
Of something. Yes.
I like that. I like that.
So other sort of literary theme things you can throw into your vacations, if you're on a road trip, you can make a stop at Universal Studios. They have a whole Dr. Seuss section, and now they've added that Harry Potter section. So that's just like one more way to get like literary things into your
Wait.
lives.
Didn't you go to the Harry Potter?
I did. I took my husband there for his 30th birthday. It was a surprise trip, and it was a gift for him. And he loved it, and it was super great. And I might have cried like just a little bit.
Golly, now I feel like I need to go on vacation, read a lot of books, and visit a lot of places. So, please tell us, where would you go if you were me? Because I'm planning my vacation. Tell me a good one to go
Yeah,
to.
of course. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And please don't forget to share this post and let us know in the comments about all of your opinions from today and any other things that you need to share. I'm Mo,
Andrea?
And I'm Morgan.
and we will be back with you on Monday, June the 12th at 9 a.m. Central Time. And until then, keep reading, writing, and being awesome. I know we will.
We will.
Cheers.
Cheers.